Hello there. Welcome to this online video discussion on mastering reading comprehension question. So, what we are going to do, we are moving to another text, another passage, and on the basis of the passage, we find out a set of questions. What our job? Our job is to uh, identify the best answer to each question. Okay, so let's see that. Uh, but before we go to the question with the answer option to discuss, let's see that what the text tries to point out, isn't it? Let's see that. What does it say? Perhaps the most arresting fact, right, about the Scottish referendum is this, that there is no newspaper, right? And then after, it is stating about local, regional, or national English or Scottish that supports independence except the Sunday Herald. So the Scots or Scottish who will vote yes have been almost without representation in the media. Now, there is nothing unusual about this change in any direction except further over the brink. A market fundamentalism and planetary destruction required the defense of almost the entire battery of salaried opinion. What distinguishes the independence campaign is that it has continued to prosper despite this assault. In the coverage of the referendum, we see most of the pathologies of the corporate media. Here, for instance, you will find the unfounded generalization with which less enlightened souls are characterized. In The Spectator, Simon Heffer maintains that, addicted to welfare, Scottish embraced the something for nothing society, objecting to the poll tax, because many of them felt that paying taxes required to be the responsibility of someone else. Here is the consensus with which the dominant classes have always treated those they regard as inferior. Their serfs, the poor, the Irish, the Africans, anyone with whom they disagree. What spoils selfish, childlike fools those Scots are, they simply don't have a clue how lucky they are. Sneered Melanie Reld in the Times. Here is the chronic inability to distinguish between a cause and a person. The referendum is widely portrayed as a vote about Alex Salmond, who is then portrayed as a monster beyond recognition. A Telegraph editorial compared him to Robert Mugabe. Now, if I talk about after reading the first paragraph, so I could say the text discusses the media's role and bias in covering the Scottish independence. So, what does it say? It stated nothing but the lack of support, lack of support, lack of support, and also media's media's role, media's role and bias, media's role and bias in covering the Scottish independence, isn't it? Scottish independence. So that's what you would find out. And except for the Sunday Herald and other paper, and the general concession and unfounded generation by some media outlet towards those supporting independence. The author criticizes the what? Now, chronic inability, chronic inability of the media to what? Of the media to distinguish between a political cause and an individual, pointing out how the referendum is often portrayed as a vote about Alex Salmond rather than the broader issues at hand. The text also, if you look into it, touches on the problem of media obsession with sensationalism and the influence of newspapers on the BBC's agenda. The author argues that many senior journalists live within a narrow circle of understanding and are also as resistance to change, perceiving any desire for change as a mortal threat, mortal threat, mortal threat. The text concludes by stating that journalists often fail to recognize shifts in public opinion, mentioning the surprise over the Scottish opinion polls and highlights the disconnect between the what you can say media and the wider population, or Huipolo, you can say wider population, wider population. So overall, the text critiques the media's handling of the Scottish independence referendum and suggests a lack of understanding and representation for those supporting independence in the media. Now, if I talk about the text tone and style, so I could say that the tone of the text is nothing but critical in context and confrontational. Critical and confrontational, right? Expressing frustration with the media's handling of the Scottish independence referendum. It adopts a somewhat, you can say, indignant and passionate tone. Indignant, it means negative, indignant, and passionate tone. Passionate tone. So, condemning the perceived bias, concession, and lack of representation in the media, the author's tone reflects nothing but a sense of urgency and a call for change in media practices. The style, if you talk about it, is nothing but articulate one, um, and employs strong language to express the author's viewpoint. So these are the ones you can say main idea, tone, and you can say that style of the text. Now let's jump to the questions answer. So if I talk about the question, so what does the question point out here? Okay, so the question point out here from the passage, what can be inferred about the rule of Alex Salmond, right? That is what given here in the text. So as far as if I talk about that, um, the the main idea of the text is to what? Criticize the media's coverage, right? And if you talk about the author argues what? Argues that the media focus on sensationalism and personalization of the referendum around figures like Alex Salmond, isn't it? So, and the narrow worldview of senior journalists contribute to a biased. Now, if I look into each and every option and try to analyze and see that which option can go with it. The first option points out a person synonymous with the Scottish independence movement. So, and the second one said a tyrannical leader who is misguiding the people of Scotland and selfish motives. Three, a public figure who is at the helm of the Scottish independence drive. Then fourth, none of them. Now, out of these three options, we need to see that whether they are correct or not. So, let's see that the passage focuses on the inability of the mainstream media in Great Britain, isn't it? As far as we have read and we understood the each and every option, so what do we find out? The passage focuses on the inability of the mainstream media in Great Britain to understand the wider causes and implications behind the Scottish independence movement. It says that the media has been unable to distinguish between a cause important to multiple people and a person potential leading to the movement, isn't it? Um, then after it tries to say that, it then goes on to state that the referendum is being portrayed as a vote about Salmon, sorry, Alex Salmon. So hence it can be inferred that what? It can be inferred that Salmond is someone who is in an important position or a position of the leadership, isn't it? Of the Scottish independence movement. So in that case, if I look into each of the options, so we find out option three stated a public figure who is at the helm of the Scottish independence drive. That makes the sense here, isn't it? Uh, so, but if you look into the option one, a person synonymous with the Scottish independence movement, right? Now, in this case, if I look into the idea, right, it is incorrect as it falls into the trap of conflating the movement with the person rather than just recognizing the position of that person within the movement, isn't it? So, hence, option one cannot be. Option three makes a clear idea like means one is called as a simile, one is called as a metaphor, one is called as a actual figure, one is called as a like figure, isn't it? So therefore, option 3 makes sense here. Now look into the option 2 and 4. Option 2 stated uh, means a tyrannical leader who is misguiding the people of Scotland for selfish motive. Now, option 2 represents the media's portrayal, right? Now, it's not it doesn't talk about means the idea which we draw from the Alex Salmond, which is explicitly stated in the passage and can be eliminated on that basis, isn't it? So, and option 4, um, which is creating a kind of a statement that none of the above. So we find out that option 3 is the correct answer. Hence, we find out option 3 will be the most appropriate inference about the role of Alexander. I hope you understood the text as well as the question's answer. That's all. Thank you.